Hi everyone. So today a friend of mine who is doing NaNoWriMo this month put a message on Instagram to say that he'd hit a mental wall and was considering destroying it. And I realised that he's in what I call the sludgy middle bit. So I thought it might be helpful to talk about that. So for those that don't know, NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month, which occurs every November and has done since 1999. And it's an exercise in which people all over the world attempt to write 50,000 words during the 30 days of November. I've never done it, I have to say, so that's my disclaimer right at the top of this. But I have written some books, so I think I have a bit of insight into what my friend may have been going through. See, I call it the sludgy middle bit because I think it's part of the process and everyone does go through it. When you first start writing a book, it's exciting. You know, you've got that energy of creativity and all these ideas burning inside you that you want to get out. And I think that kind of sustains you over the first few hurdles that you encounter when you're writing a book and keeps you going. And then at the end, you've obviously got the fact that you can see the summit ahead and you can imagine a day when this writing process is over. And so that kind of spurs you on as well. And, you know, the most of the work is behind you and it can be fun again. But there is that bit in the middle where you're nowhere near the beginning and nowhere near the end. And that's also when the plot can get tangled up as well. And things you thought were going to work suddenly don't work. Things you thought you were going to be writing about suddenly you're not writing about and you're not sure why. I think it's almost like you're in this kind of dialogue with the book, in that you want to take it in one direction and your characters or the work wants to take it in another direction, and you're trying to sort of reconcile those two things. So I think it can be very difficult. I think for most people writing a novel, when they're in that sludgy middle bit, I would advise to do something else, to have a day off, to put more fuel in the tank, if you like. Not to beat yourself up about the fact that you're finding it difficult, not to feel so invested in how many words you've put down on the page or on the screen that day. But of course, if you're doing NaNoWriMo and the whole point is to get the words down on the screen and hit the 50,000 word target before the end of November, that's really hard. And I think that's when you need a slightly different set of tools, perhaps, to get you over these hurdles. The first thing to do is just accepting it's part of the process, and it's part of the process for everybody. And if you're doing NaNoWriMo and you want to hit your 50,000 word target, then the point probably is just to keep going, which is the opposite of the advice I would normally give. But just keep putting words on the page, but with that, accept that they're probably not going to be very good on some days. I think every writer is slightly different in terms of whether their first drafts are scrappy and messy or whether they're fairly sort of neat and complete. And I think if you're doing NaNoWriMo, you have to accept that there is going to be quite a large element of scrappiness in your work, and that's okay. I mean, that's you haven't set yourself the target of doing a brilliant first draft that hardly needs any work, because that will take months. You've set yourself the target of writing 50,000 words in a month, so do that. I'm not saying write rubbish deliberately, but I'm just saying give yourself a break if it's not happening on one day, and just freewheel for a while just to get the words out. Unlike lots of other art forms, when you read a finished novel, it reads as though those were the only words that could possibly express those emotions or that action or whatever it might be. And so therefore it feels like it's a first draft. It feels like it kind of tumbled out of the author's head onto the page, as beautiful as it reads when you pick it up and read it. And of course that's not true. Editing is part of the process, and that most books, if not all books, to a greater or lesser extent, come together in the editing stage. So what you're doing during NaNoWriMo is really getting your material out there on the page. I liken it to sort of stretching the canvas if you're a painter, or, you know, mixing the clay if you're doing pottery. You're creating a substance that you can then work with during the editing stage. It's supposed to be fun. Some days at least. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. Take care and speak soon.